pass. Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I have been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Beach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
It's Bearcat Blitz time on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. And I'm your host, Russ Heltman of Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, joined by Neil Meyer from the frontofficenews.com. In just a moment, as the Bearcats lick their wounds amidst one of the worst stretches for Cincinnati Bearcats basketball and football on the win-loss column front in quite some time. Bearcats football drops their season finale to TCU, another 4-game losing streak to close another season in the Scott Satterfield era, the third consecutive season that they have done that in his tenure. And then the Bearcats basketball team got to losing its first conference shocker or non-conference shocker of the season earlier than normal this time around, as they lost legitimately the worst loss of the Wes Miller era the night before Thanksgiving. They have not lost to a team rated worse coming into a game than the Eastern Michigan Eagles were, who were basically 500, had just lost by 40 to Louisville earlier in the week, and they pantsed the Cincinnati Bearcats in a 64-56 victory. The offense for Cincinnati, as bad as it's ever been under Wes Miller, and arguably as bad as it's been this entire century. We'll get to that to open the show, and we'll touch on the Bearcats' loss to TCU and what it means for Brendan Sorsby and his future with Cincinnati, where a month ago, it was, will Brendan Sorsby leave for the draft? And now it's, how will the Bearcats find a way to keep Brendan Sorsby from leaving for another school in general after the way they have played down the stretch around him this season? Cut to all that on this episode of Bearcat Blitz after we tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the Bearcats to cover tonight, a spot they've been really bad in against the number this season. You see just 2-5 against the spread after not coming close to covering as 22.5-point favorites over Eastern Michigan. They are 18.5-point favorites tonight. And if you think the Bearcats are going to go into a tailspin, put your money where your thoughts are at 14-1 on the money line for Tarleton State after UC just lost as 20-1 money line favorites over Eastern Michigan. Yes, the Eastern Michigan Eagles. If you put $1 on Eastern Michigan last Wednesday, you would have won $20 coming your way after that shocking upset by the MAC school. More great messages coming your way in just a moment as we get ready for the opening of the action on this Bearcat Blitz presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Neil, will start on the basketball front and then move to football in the back half of the show. Just an unmitigated disaster of a season so far for the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. They're one of 10 teams, Neil, as we just started recording. The net rankings came out a few hours ago. One of 10 power conference teams rated outside of the top 150 so far this season. I mean, no doubt about it that they should be in that range, because you've done nothing impressive at all so far, especially after losing 64-56 to Eastern Michigan. Once again, Day Thomas is the only player that showed up offensively in this game without Baba Miller for this second contest in a row for Cincinnati. Thomas still only shot 5 of 13 from the floor, but made 4 of the Bearcats' 7 total threes. I mean, Sean Abayev was a no-show in this game, 2 of 9 from the field. Kirk Riesa continues to no-show as a shooter, continues to no-show doing anything besides some good passes here or there and his outside shot. That's all he does. Scoring the basketball is take threes, 2 of 6 from deep, and scores 8 points. Tyler McKinley fouls out of this game, going 1 of 4 from the field. Keyshawn Tillery didn't give you much in 10 minutes, 2 for 4 shooting. Sincere Harris, Neil, looked like the only Bearcat that wanted to fight for 40 minutes. This team came out flat They came out dilapidated. They once again cannot shoot the basketball at home, so there's zero reason to think they're going to shoot the basketball well in multiple non-home matchups over the next few weeks against very tough opponents. 7 of 29 from deep. I mean, they forced 17 turnovers and scored 19 points off of them. The offense is just broken as broken as it's ever been under Wes Miller. 34% shooting against a team outside the top 200 in defensive efficiency entering this game. You allow the Eastern Michigan Eagles to punk you on the boards 36-29. They win that rebounding battle easily. It's just a continued issue for Cincinnati, has been all season long. The only guy who seemingly wants to rebound is Mustafa Cham, who didn't rebound well enough at all in this game, only had 2 boards and 8 points in this one. Sean Abaya was your leading rebounder with 7 on the night. But I mean, Neil, it wasn't a shock that they lost this game, and that's the probably most damning part of all this. They led wire to wire inside Fifth Third Arena for the worst loss definitively of the Wes Miller era.
Yeah, arguably so, Russ. And I mean, it's easy to say that this was the worst loss of the Wes Miller era. And I know when you think about those losses during the 5-year tenure, a lot of people think back to the NKU game. But what was on display last week before Thanksgiving was arguably worse than what was on display 3 years ago at NKU.
I don't think it's arguable. I mean, that game was in a true road environment, in a hostile environment. This was at home, and it was as bad as it.
Yeah.
It was even worse than that. They put up less points in this game than they did against NKU. With a way worse team on top of that. The talent level on this roster, you should never let a team like Eastern Michigan get within double digits of you at home, let alone beat you wire to wire as 22+ point underdogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Russ, when you look down and saw how, I think you and I sat next to each other for this game, we kind of talked about it. We said, this is the definition of a trap game. It always is. But then Eastern Michigan comes out on what, an 8-0 run to start the game. And we all looked to each other and we said, well, this could be a game where Cincinnati loses. And that is exactly what happened.
Led by as many as 17 points in the Bearcats home arena.
Wire to wire. And Cincinnati just had no answer for Eastern Michigan, despite Eastern Michigan shooting poorly. Like, the game was there for Cincinnati to take, and they just flat out did not show up to Fifth Third Arena. I get it's the holiday weekend, but you still got a job to do in a sense. And they did not come out ready to play. They came out ready to roll into the holiday week. Said we got a few days off before Tarleton State, and then before the biggest week. And Russ, it's safe to say if Cincinnati comes out and no shows and plays like they did versus Eastern Michigan tonight, heading into Xavier, all hell could break loose on Friday night. So they got to find a way to steer this ship here soon, because if not, tonight and Friday could get ugly. But for Eastern Michigan, that's probably going to be arguably one of their biggest wins of the season. That could be
Statistically, it will be, Neil. They hadn't beaten a power conference team since 2014. This isn't some Indiana State strong mid-major program. This team stinks at college basketball and has for basically its entire time in the sport, outside of a few good years back in the 90s, which are irrelevant for right now.
Yeah, and this is a win for Eastern Michigan that could significantly bolster their resume, potentially come down March with whatever happens to the rest of the season.
No, it won't. It will not. It's a MAC team. Once again, the MAC is a one bid league every year, and this is a one bid league type team. Like they're not going to be an at-large team. We don't need to put lipstick on this pig, Neil. It was an unmitigated disaster of a showing. And to play like that 2 days after you had just not shown up in the first half against, who was it, NJIT? I mean, I don't know how you put lipstick on this pig, to use the reference again, Neil, and how you can think that fans will buy into this Wes Miller-led program at all the rest of the season. There is no chance I am picking them with this outfit and the way that they perform at home to go into Centos Center and get a win for the first time since 2001. And you got to know this Xavier team, which is trending up right now, is frothing at the mouth to play a team like the Bearcats right now. A team in the Bearcats, Neil, that I'm not sure they're winning tonight against the second leading scorer in the nation.
Yeah, and a guy they're familiar with in Tarleton State's point guard Dior Johnson. It's going to be interesting tonight, Russ, but Cincinnati's got to find a way to find some kind of identity, right? You know Baba Miller's out, you know Mustafa Cham's out, but it's come down to the point now.
Jalen
Who is
Celestine,
going?
Chom's healthy.
Oh yeah, not Mustafa Cham, Jalen Celestine,
Yeah.
and then
Baba Miller.
Baba Miller, Jalen Haynes as well. But it's going to be interesting to see who takes the bull by the horns outside of Day Thomas. You mentioned Kirk Carissa has been kind of a no-show on the offensive end. Sean Abayev has struggled over recent weeks. Who is going to be that guy outside of Day Thomas and Sincere Harris, who, Russ, we weren't really counting on Sincere Harris to come in and make a statement on the offensive side of the end. Everybody knows what you're going to get on the defensive end, but he's flashed more aggressiveness in the last 2 games or so. So they're going to need somebody besides Day Day to step up and say, "Hey, I can go get a couple buckets and have this killer mentality," or or things are going to trend south, right? Everybody knows that. Who's going to be that guy for Cincinnati to step up? And frankly, right now, I don't think Cincinnati has that defined killer on this team where they say, "Hey, we need a bucket, let's go get it." Right? You have the talent on the roster to do so, but until shots go in, you got to wonder who's going to be that guy to step up. Tonight could be an opportunity for that, just as every other night. But Russ, it's going to be pretty damning if this game is a lot closer tonight than what people expect. Now, obviously, who knows the status of Baba Miller and Jalen Celestine heading into this one as of right now, early in the afternoon on Monday. But they got to find something. They got to find some kind of mentality. They got to find some kind of culture change, mindset change after the weekend. And I know Wes Miller stated he's going to learn from it. He was not pleased with it, but you can only wonder at this point in the season, with a horrible loss to an Eastern Michigan team, what is the turning page for Cincinnati to get back on track? I guess we'll find out tonight, but there's got to be something step up. Hopefully, some of the alumni that was in the building, Corey Blunt was in the building last weekend for the Eastern Michigan game. So hopefully, somebody is in there kind of giving their opinions on, hey, this is what it means to wear a Cincinnati uniform. Let's get this thing back on track.
Tarleton State 5-1 against the betting spread so far this season. They have multiple wins on the road entering this game. It is or one win on the road, 1-3 outside of their home confines. So, I mean, Neil, if they shoot 30% or less from three again here, they will be in major trouble. Major trouble because that's all they can do. That's their only identity right now is to chuck threes and pray. They don't have any offensive identity in the half court. They don't have anybody outside of Baba Miller, who is not healthy right now. We don't know his status for tonight. And Sincere Harris, who can slash to the paint and get to the rim consistently. And Sincere Harris, that is not his strong suit. He is not going to be a consistent, efficient player trying to do that. And we saw that against Eastern Michigan. Love the energy he brought, but 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 turnovers. I mean, you saw what happens when Sincere Harris has the ball in his hands more than you would like. And now, right now, Neil, I mean, 215th ranked offense in the country. 215th in the country on KenPom. Their offense in the history of KenPom, Neil, has never been this lowly rated. Ever. Like, so with a coach who's been here for 5 years and an offensive just decline that we've seen every single year, and now it's as bad as it's ever been before playing any real teams outside of Louisville, before playing the hardest part of your non-conference schedule, and before playing the hardest part of your overall schedule against the Big 12. I just am struggling to understand or kind of tell people why it's going to get better, why it's going to improve over the next 4 to 6 weeks, the next 6 to 8 weeks, once we get deeper into Big 12 play. I mean, this is a team that, Neil, was 11-1 or what, 12-1 last year in the non-conference and still missed the NCAA tournament pretty easily with how they performed in the Big 12. I would be stunned at this point if they don't have 4, maybe even 5 losses in the non-con. And at that point, the season's already over before you get to January, because we know that this team with this coach, given the history, cannot be expected to win 10 of your 18 Big 12 games, 11 of your 18 Big 12 games. because we can't forecast it or project it to happen if there's no signs of it ever happening and it never happening in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Cincinnati, Russ, nobody predicted a forecasted a loss to a horrible Eastern Michigan team. But for the many fans right now, and Russ, this is me being 100% honest, I'm very curious to see what the crowd is like tonight
It's
after
not going
that
to be
game.
very
It's not
favorable
going
for
to
the
be.
Bearcats. It's not going to feel like a home game if they do not. They better start fast, or it's going to be as dead a crowd and as an easy a crowd to deal with as Eastern Michigan was able to muster on Wednesday.
Yeah, and if the crowd's not in your part and you come out slow, who knows what tonight might lead to.
There's
The
not going to be
Boo
a student section. We know that.
Yep, we do know that one. But Russ, if they come out slow, I expect the Boo Birds to be out in the first 6 minutes of this game. I truly do.
As they should be. I mean, this was a highly expensive team. The boosters put in a ton of money to bring in these talents. You're paying Shauna Baev a lot of money. You're paying Kirk Kriesa a lot of money. You're paying Day Thomas a lot of money. You're paying a lot of guys a lot of money. And Day Thomas, and really outside of him and Sincere Harris, no healthy players right now are earning those paychecks to a high enough degree. So that has to change over the next 24 hours. And you need to go to use a shortening phrase, B2A on these guys tonight against Tarleton State. Destroy a team for once at home this season. Show that you can put together 40 minutes of basketball. They played one complete half. And I don't even know if you could call it complete against Louisville in the opening segment in that game a couple weeks ago. Outside of that, they have not really played a complete 20 minutes, I would say, overall for much of the season, and it's just been a massive problem. Moving to the football side of things in terms of the problems after this quick message on Bearcat Blitz, where if you think the Bearcats can win the Big 12, I would never make this wager, but the numbers are on the board. They are 50-1 still to win the Big 12 regular season title, behind Baylor, Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Arizona, and Houston on the FanDuel Sportsbook odds board. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook to make your wagers on the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team this season. More coverage of the football side of things after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. All righty, Neil. From more of the same stagnation on the win column on basketball to stagnation in the win column in football. 3 consecutive years of Scott Satterfield teams losing at least 4 games to close a regular season. Now, Neil, we await the bowl destination for this squad coming this Sunday afternoon. Just another game, Neil, where terrible mistakes in the worst kind of moments blow a contest for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. They lose 45-23 to TCU. Josh Hoover lights them up. A guy who had 13 picks entering this game, did not throw an interception here, 306 yards passing, and 4 touchdowns on 22 total throws. 19 of 22 through the air. They gave up another shellacking on the ground, another punk you, pants you, smack you in the face performance by an opposing running back as Jeremy Payne, not even the starting running back for the TCU Horned Frogs, backup running back Jeremy Payne, 26 carries, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. They averaged 4.6 yards per carry on 52 totes. They put up almost 550 yards of total offense in this game, Neil. They go 9 of 17 combined on 3rd and 4th down to Cincinnati's 3 of 11 on that mark. And once again, you have a Big 12 team that is able to execute while overcoming some issues, and you get the opposite on the other side for Cincinnati. And now, Neil, kind of the game is what it is. 45-23 result. They're not going to play another game for the next few weeks. It's going to be a pretty different looking, feeling team just in the vibes overall. I don't think we need to break down the game all that much. It was another disaster. It's kind of the same thing that we've been seeing all down the stretch of November with Scott Satterfield now 1-11 all time in this month. They can't move the ball offensively consistently and timely. They can't execute on late downs, which comes down to, I mean, anything from your wide receivers at this point in the season somehow deciding to run back behind the yardage sticks instead of getting as many yards as possible moving forward to, I mean, more sacks in this game. They allowed more pressures than we're used to seeing from the Bearcats offensive line. And then defensively, it's the same issues, the same non-blitzing tendencies, the same off-ball soft coverage on late downs, the same thing over and over again from a team that entered this game 105th nationally in stop rate, will exit even worse in stop rate this season, and just needs to maybe get a new voice in the defensive coordinator position. Maybe needs to completely overhaul the way they play defense in terms of the personnel and all that good stuff, which is going to be very difficult next year, Neil, because you're losing a ton of trench pieces on either side of the football. But that's neither here nor there. We'll discuss that after the bowl game. Will Brendan Sorsby, Neil, be playing in this bowl game? That's the big takeaway I have coming out of this, because he was the most upset I've ever seen him directly after a game, which he should be. His team once again played horrible around him while he played good football. 23 of 33, 282 through the air, 3 touchdowns, tried to will a comeback with a 41-yard long run in the second half, 10 carries for 59 yards. He was their leading rusher as well in this game, only 9 carries for their running backs in another game where they're playing from behind and just unable to establish a rushing rhythm. And once again, lost the time of possession battle in this game by nearly 15 minutes to a team who was 119th in time of possession entering this game. So it was not a mismatch coming into this contest. I would be so done with all of this, Neil, if I were Brendan Sorsby. The lack of execution around me, the lack of growth throughout a season around me, the fact that I went and got these wide receivers, I went and stuck my neck out for a lot of these transfers, and they are now not living up to that end of the bargain in the back half of the slate. I mean, Neil, he did not give any definitive, yes, I will be here for the bowl game. Yes, I can't wait to keep building on this for the 2026 season and beyond. I would be stunned at this point if Brendan Sorsby is not only playing in the bowl game, but playing for the Bearcats next season. He's going to be one of the most sought after transfers in the entire portal, maybe the most sought after transfer portal QB in the country. Ton of big money offers coming his way, and justifiably, considering he will finish his campaign as one of the 12 best graded quarterbacks on Pro Football Focus and one of the 12 highest ESPN QBR numbers of any player in the country this season. He's been really good, Neil, and the team around him has not stepped up to the plate and hit enough home runs down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ. And I mean, you and I have been able to have the pleasure of kind of being around Brendan for the last 2 years, but Saturday night was the most we've seen him frustrated after a game. And it's been visible over the last month that his frustrations have started to kind of come out a little bit.
I mean, he even did a pump-up speech in the rain delay. Did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's pulled out every stop he possibly can to get these guys to respond, and sometimes you just don't have enough talent to respond.
Yeah, and that's a true leader, right? He's doing everything he can to get this team ready to go in what was a final month in November where they were sitting at 7-1 to now sitting at 7-5, where they are now 1-11 in games in November over Scott Satterfield's 3-year tenure.
And they've given up 40 plus 6 times out of those games.
And they
Six of those 12 losses, your defense has allowed 40 plus points. That's incalculable. That cannot continue.
It cannot. And you're right. And when you look down at the metrics, the analytics from college football this season, especially across the Big 12, I will be one. I'm not the first that's going to say it. I know there's a million other people out there screaming it. The 3-3-5 is just not ideal in the Big 12. It's just not. You saw this.
It's ideal, but the way they play it is insane. You win the conference with this scheme. You don't win the conference never run blitzing. You don't win the conference playing 7 yards off the football in man coverage the entire
Mhm.
game. I mean, it's
You have to
just
find ways to dial up and
right. You
bring
got to
pressure.
mix it up. You got to bring some different looks. You got to do something different. Like, for example, the Baylor game, Neil. They changed up the looks. They brought some different pass coverage to the table there. And what do you know? They hold one of the most prolific passing offenses in the country to its lowest total of the season up to that point. It's either Tyson Vite is unwilling to change what he wants to do, and that needs to change in that sense, or they need to completely overhaul the way that they're building this defense personnel wise, which with what we've talked about, them having the second least talented power conference roster in the country on 24/7 sports, you're kind of bricked in kind of between a wall and a hard place in that sense financially.
Yeah, and when you look at Cincinnati, I mean, the strength of their defense right now, Russ, heading into the season was the linebacker core. You saw that Jake Golday, Jonathan Thompson, Jack Dingle, Simeon Coleman, Monte Whedon, all those guys. That was the strength of this defense. Was nobody knew what to really expect from the defensive line outside Dante Corleone and potential having Micah Coleman back there, Jalen Hunt. The strength of this team was the linebacker position. And I mean, that's still the strength of this defense. But
And they
for
don't lean on it
Cincinnati,
enough. I mean, Jalen
yeah.
Hunt, Micah Coleman have played a Neal about as well as you can expect them
Mhm.
to play at the edge rusher positions, given a new role entirely in his career from Jalen Hunt and Micah Coleman coming off of a torn Achilles. I mean, those two guys have been pretty good. It's just you're never expecting them to be the drivers of your pass rush. You have to get creative. You have to find ways to bring pressure to the quarterback with multiple guys instead of just rushing three. What have we said, Neil, all season long in all these previews? 120, 118, 113 in pressure rate, 114 in sack EPA generated. They just don't, they haven't tried, or seemingly they haven't tried in game to do anything majorly different in terms of bringing havoc to the defensive table. And it's why you don't turn the ball over at all. They didn't force a turnover again in this game, and will finish the season with just 11 forced turnovers on the year. If you can't force one turnover per game, that's horrendous as a power conference defense.
Yeah. And for me, Russ, the biggest thing I think for Cincinnati's defense that they need to adjust heading into this offseason is they have to find a way to get bigger at the cornerback position. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the biggest thing. You look down, I mean, Matthew McDoom, Logan Wilson, both veteran players, both have had a lot of success through their college careers, but teams are exploiting them. When you're having 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers go out wide, they're going to win that matchup majority of the time. So it's going to be interesting for how do they adjust that in the offseason. Do we see some defensive schemes maybe getting changed or whatever schematically think those things happening?
I just
But
don't know how you change it, Neil, because if you go, you're either going from a 3-3-5, from a three-man front to a four-man front. Well, it's just like with UC's monetary resources, they're not going to be able to field a competent starting four-man defensive front with two legitimate power conference defensive tackles. Those guys are really difficult to find with the amount of money UC has.
yeah, and that's a valid point as well because when it comes to the transfer portal, the NIL, the people who are going to get your big money, obviously your quarterbacks, your receivers. But people forget a good offensive lineman and a good defensive lineman cost you a boatload of money. Like you might as well back the Brinks truck up and you're going to have to fork out some money there. You might even need two of them per se, depending on what college or university you're at. But Cincinnati's going to have to find something there. Obviously, losing Dante Corleone, losing Jalen Hunt, you're going to have to find some production. Who's going to be guys that replace that? We've seen a couple guys step in when Dante's been hurt, but they're going to need to find somebody who can come in out of the transfer portal and make an immediate impact. They're going to have to. So it's going to be interesting,
On
Russ. And
top
next,
of maybe having to find a quarterback,
yeah,
which they kneel. I mean, the
that's your number
odds.
one right there. If he
Yeah,
leaves,
I mean, he's not definitely leaving as of now, but just given, you would think he would have said, "Yeah, can't wait for the bowl game." When in fact he said, "We're going to have some conversations between my family and the coaching staff over the next week."
and the agents.
Right. So, not necessarily the message you want to hear if you're a Bearcats fan. And Neil, if they have to go searching for a quarterback in the transfer portal, the season is already kind of capped at 6 to 7 wins next year. It is because you're not going to be this healthy again. Highly unlikely to be as healthy as they were all season again in 2026. You're going to have a little bit more difficult schedule. They played a pretty easy schedule this season. Will probably end up playing what, Neil? One top 25 team in the entire slate, two, Utah and BYU, out of the entire slate all season long. So your schedule's most likely going to get more difficult. And then you have gotten top 12 quarterback play all season long. If you're a team like Cincinnati, you're hoping for top 50 quarterback play out of the transfer portal. And you've managed to get top 25 quarterback play last year, top 12 quarterback play this year, and you're 500. That's what you got to show for it. So I can easily see why Brendan Sorsby is thoroughly upset with what's happened around him right now. And they are losing games far from because of Brendan Sorsby. He is not the reason they're losing a lot of these football games on the stretch. I would say he's maybe been the reason they've lost 2 of these games total out of the 5 this season. So we will see what happens with signing day on Wednesday, and Neil taking the reins from me for the back half of this week's shows leading into the Crosstown Shootout. I got a big wedding to attend, so I will not be having coverage of that, but we'll still have you covered on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI from probably our publisher, James Rapine, on that front, and Neil will have you covered on the Bearcat Blitz front later in the week. For Mr. Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz presented by FanDuel Sportsbook on the Believe Network. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Beach Bowl. This is a big one, too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play.